Here's Jimmy Kimmel, as you'll recall, has been at war basically with Donald Trump and the FCC over the efforts to get him kicked off the air. And he survived that. Those two big ABC affiliate owners who weren't going to run his show are back running his show. I don't know how long he'll stay on the air, but he came through it to the other side. He's booking his show, doing his show. Here he is doing an interview with Bloomberg where the interviewers ask him about who he might book on his show in the future. Take a listen, S4.
Since you came back, have you asked Trump or Carr to come on? No, I haven't. I wouldn't necessarily be interested in Brendan Carr on the show. But yeah, I'd love to have Trump on the show for sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like he knows that he wants, I don't know. All right, I'll ask him.
All right, so Jimmy Kimmel said, yeah, I'd have Trump on the show. And then he laughs and the audience laughs. And I find this hilarious, mostly because, I think Trump might go on the show, even though that seems insane. And it's funny for me because of this. Trump is extremely in this moment as a warrior against Hollywood, against Harvard, against law firms, against the people who his Justice Department is going after because they were involved in lawfare against him, against the media. Like he is in warrior mode. And Karl Rove in his Wall Street Journal column this week and others has said, like, you're picking too many wars. Like, how about the war against Putin? How about the war in the tariffs? How about the war, for the government shutdown? Like, those are really big wars. You're picking all these other wars, too many wars, right? When you see Trump talk about this stuff, he's ferocious about it. Like, it appears he's not taking them lightly. And yet the reason I think the Kimmel thing is funny is because the reality is if Kimmel invited him on, Trump might go on because Trump is a showman. Trump loves showdowns and he loves drama and he loves late night TV. He loves pop culture and being invited on Kimmel would be, like being invited on, Dancing with the Stars or being invited on to make a guest appearance on some sitcom or some, LA Law, whatever, some show that Trump thinks about as a pop cultural touchstone. And I'm sure he thinks about Kimmel that way because it's a late night show. It's shot in Hollywood. So I'm not predicting he'll go on, but it just makes me chuckle when I think about, here's Trump and Brendan Carr, the head of his FCC, basically trying to take Kimmel's job away. I mean, maybe that wasn't their absolute goal, but that's in effect what they were practically doing. And now you've got Kimmel going on saying, yeah, well, sure, I'd have Trump on the show. Maybe I'll try to book him. And again, I laugh because I really do think Trump might go on. Maybe not right away, but if Kimmel really tries to get him on, and if Kimmel, I'm sure they've got like 1 million mutual friends. If Kimmel really reached out and said, I want Trump on the show, I think it's a good possibility he would do it and find that also quite funny. All right, lastly, in the news, Pam Bondi, Attorney General. First of all, I find this funny. I laugh about it every time. Laura Loomer, the opposition researcher, self-styled journalist who's very close to President Trump, does not historically like Pam Bondi very much. And she always refers to the Attorney General as Pam Blondie. For some reason, I find that funny. She'll put it in a tweet or whatever. Anyway, Pam Bondi testifying on the Senate side this week, first time since she was confirmed as Attorney General, Senate Judiciary Committee, loaded with very ambitious, very TV-focused Democratic senators. And there's a lot of controversy going on. All these questions about the president's personal finances, about Epstein, about the prosecutions of Jim Comey and others, about what's one other big one? About the head of Tom Homan, the border czar, allegedly taking a 50 grand in a paper bag. All these questions, she knew she was going to get them. And most members of the cabinet who are going into a hostile hearing come armed with a strategy. They might war game it out. They might sit with their staff and do what's called a murder board and practice answers. And typically it would be stonewall, or change the subject, or say, Senator, how dare you? But Pam Bondi came with a totally different strategy, and she is an accomplished lawyer. She is a political veteran. Like she knows what's what. She knows about how to win a public showdown because she's been doing it in Florida and in Washington for a long time. So Pam Bondi came into the hearing with a strategy that, again, made me laugh, which is she basically said to her team, or her team said to her, I don't know how they decided to do it, but she came armed with opposition research, like little factoids about all the Democratic senators. And so some of them, I think, were linked up to what she anticipated they might ask her about, but some of them were just like, Democratic Senator X says, Pam Bondi, you took a bribe, and she'd say, Senator, you're so ugly that you couldn't get a date in high school. That's an exaggeration, but my point is she just had opposition research. She just had little digs that she was going to unfurl back at these Democratic senators to win the fight. Not on point. They wouldn't say, why are you indicting the president's enemies? And she would say, well, let me cite when you indicted the president's enemies. They weren't directly responsive, but what they were like the dozens. They were just basically like, you're going to come after me? Well, guess what? I'm going to come back after you. The show's not long enough for us to play all the time she did it, but here are, and again, I'm not siding with Pam Bondi or trivializing the issues the Democratic senators were raising at all. I'm simply saying I find this hilarious. Pam Bondi does the dozens on Democratic senators at the Judiciary Committee hearing. Please roll the hilarious exploits S5.
I cannot believe that you would accuse me of impropriety when you lied about your military service.
I am
you
not
lied.
asking
You
you.
admitted you
I am
lied
not
to be
accusing you
elected
of
a U.S. senator.
impropriety.
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump.
Was she
If
right?
you worked for me,
Was
you
she-
would have been fired. And you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Senator, I don't think a lot of people
I
like
would
that
say
you were
that
out
they're probably
protesting with
meeting you
Antifa.
right now.
Clearly, you're a
Personal
failed lawyer
refuse to
because you don't
accept-
understand when
excuse me,
someone can and cannot
refuse
answer
to
a
accept
question.
All right, so part of why I think that's funny, besides those lines are just funny because they're so out there, is she came in armed with that. I'm sure the Democratic senators expected her to have comebacks, and they war gamed with their strategy, with their staff, how to have a strategy for that, but they couldn't possibly have expected that, because I've seen a lot of congressional hearings and I've seen a lot of witnesses come in, cabinet members and others, with a strategy that involved pushback, but nothing quite like that. And again, I found it hilarious just how she had all these lines and she delivered them in kind of a rote but nasty way, right? She almost wasn't hiding the fact that these were just pre-canned lines. It was almost like, yeah, here's my next pre-canned line. Let's have at it. I found it hilarious. I did. And I'll say again, I'm not siding for or against Pam Bondi or for or against Democratic senators. I'm siding for the comedy of congressional hearing theater, which is what that was. I'll say I love humor. I love comedy, and we all need to do our best to find humor in things. We're headed towards a pretty tumultuous period with the tariffs and China and the implementation of the Middle East deal and what's going to happen with the shutdown. These are serious, serious issues. And when I need to be serious, I will. But when I need some good belly laughs, I'm glad to see the people in politics are happy to provide them. Everybody, now I want to tell you about something called the Vapor Technology Association. It's an organization that was started nearly a decade ago to protect the rights of Americans who choose alternatives to smoking and the small businesses who have made a living using this technology. They support science-based policies and the rights of adults to make healthier choices. Did you know many family-owned vape shops and manufacturers across the country are now under attack thanks to what are outdated Biden-era regulations that threaten to wipe out the entire industry? The Vapor Technology Association, also known as VTA, says businesses are being destroyed and people are losing their jobs. But the VTA says President Trump now has a clear opportunity to change this and to protect Americans' right to make their own choices and to defend small businesses and restore a free and fair marketplace. So head over to vaportechnology.org now. You can learn more about the organization and why they are leading the charge to support American innovation. And if their mission appeals to you, consider becoming a member when you get to the website. Again, that's vaportechnology.org. Tell them you heard about all of this on Next Up.